Hello and welcome to episode 305 of the Total Saints podcast, live from the Halo Lounge at St Mary's Stadium. We didn't even have to rehearse that either. Coming up tonight on the podcast, it's been a while, but we've got a win to talk about. The 1-0 win over Sheffield United last night. It wasn't a classic, but it was much needed. And you certainly don't need reminding that it's one of the most important games of the season on Sunday, the small matter of the South Coast Derby. So going to be previewing that game later with the help of a couple of special guests who know exactly what it's like to face Pompey. We're here tonight with our friends from the Saints Foundation as well, so we'll find out more about the wonderful work they do in the local community later. And there will be your chance to ask questions to any of the panel as well, so if you want to get your thinking caps on, we can do that a bit later on. My name is Martin Stark. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Steve Grant, who is the owner of Saints Web. Glenda Lacour is writer of the blog League 1-10, and Alfie House is senior Southampton reporter at the Daily Echo. Now, if you've never listened to our podcast before, we always review the game that's just happened. We look ahead to the next one, and then we make some terrible score predictions, and that won't change tonight. So we're going to start with a positive home result. Saints completing a league double over somebody for the first time since beating Leeds back in May 2024. 1-0 the final score against Sheffield United. Alfie, it wasn't pretty, was it? But it was a much-needed win last night.
Yeah, it was much needed. I think that the pressure was obviously building after the whole performance and result. Tom the Record said he sort of likened it to the QPR game, his very first game of his tenure way back in November, and in the sense that it was narrow, it wasn't brilliant. They didn't set the world alight, but it was. They got over the line. They did the job, and I think given the importance of Sunday, I think that's a massive boost for everybody at the club. Just gives them a chance to breathe. It gives us a chance to be a bit more positive about something. Gives obviously everybody in the crowd a chance to breathe as well. A couple of important things. I mean, the formation change is something that we've been talking about for a while, and I'm sort of with Tonda in the sense that I don't think that it's all down to system and formation. I think there's a lot bigger problems than playing a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3, whatever it is. But the truth is that we recruited in the summer to play 4-2-3-1. That was Will Steele's preferred formation, was to play 4-2-3-1. So it's no surprise that when you change that, all of a sudden all these new signings are in their natural places where they feel comfortable. Tom Fellows on the right. I actually think that yesterday he could have been even higher up, pushing the fullback even more. But he was up there rather than in wing back. Obviously Finn Azaz in number 10 and Leo Cienza, who's been playing this inside role for a little bit too long, back to his best in the sense that back out wide. Only one fullback to sort of cut inside, take on, then he has a chance. If you look at the numbers yesterday, Leo Cienza actually received the ball a lot less often than he has done in the last 5, 6, 7 or 8 games. But what he did with it was tenfold. He had 5 shots, 3 on target. It's more than any other game he's had this season for Saints. And that's all because I think the position, he has one man to beat. It's very simple for him. Then he had obviously scored the opening goal in the 8th minute. And then he had a couple of other chances. Probably should have scored that header. Tonda wasn't very happy with that. I'm not sure why he dived in the way he did. And then you look at the centre-backs as well. I think that's the other big thing. I thought Taylor Harwood-Bellis had a brilliant game yesterday. And Jack Stevens coming in did really well. And I'm not a defensive expert. Maybe Mark Dennis or James Beattie can tell me otherwise. But I feel that their game looks a lot more simple when they play in a back four. And when you've got 3 of them, they sort of play these half-back roles with Nathan Wood in the middle. And I just wonder if having a winger and a striker on either channel makes it more difficult for them. Whereas you go back to a back four, you bring the fullbacks back, their game is almost all in front of them. I don't know. To me, it just looks simple. It looks simple for them. The other big thing was Ross Stewart. Yeah. I thought Ross Stewart made a massive difference. We know that he can't be fit for every game, but you look at the way they played yesterday, it was way more direct than usual. And we don't need to just play long ball every single week and just smash it forward. But yesterday they played 70 long balls, the most they played in any game this season. And if you look at the total proportion of passes, they made 404 passes attempted, which is the lowest of any game this season where they've had 50% possession or more. So what that means is they're knocking it forward constantly. And I felt they were just an immediate threat to Saints. So it's made it very obvious to me that they need to get somebody else in of that profile. Doesn't need to just be a lump who can do nothing else, because Ross Stewart is a lot more than that, in my opinion. But having that option to go long when you need to, it just makes you less predictable, surely. If you're in opposition defence, come up against Adam Armstrong, Cameron Archer, you know only one way you have to defend. But if you've got Ross Stewart as well and somebody else, there's a couple of ways the Saints can play. So, yeah, that's the biggest take for me. An important win, not brilliant by any means, but it gives us all a lift.
It's pretty straightforward, isn't it, really, Glenn? You think a back four, a big man up front, simple, job done.
Well, it certainly, as Alfie said, it makes things a lot simpler. It makes things a lot easier to understand. What I noticed straight away is the partnerships that were forming sort of all over the pitch. So, Yellett and Fellows down the right-hand side were showing promise of, building something together. And Wellington and Cienza, obviously both from Brazil, they seem to have something together as well. Alfie's already mentioned the central defenders. What I've always liked about the back four is that when you play with three at the back, it kind of gives players the opportunity to hide. And I don't think with the current set of players we've got, being as polite as I possibly can, you want to give them an excuse or an opportunity to go and hide. So when you're playing in a flat back four, there is no hiding place. You have to do your job. And Jack Stevens he had a couple of sort of iffy moments in the first half, but he hasn't played for a while, so that's sort of understandable. Grew into the game. I don't know if it was down to the formation or whether the instructions have been simplified, but Downs and Yander looked a lot better as a pairing in the centre of midfield as well. So I could, you always talk about partnerships. I always feel that with the three at the back, no one really 100% knew where they were. And I think Alfie's dead right. I think it confused Tom Fellows a little bit because yesterday you could sort of see at times that he wasn't as far forward as he maybe should have been, and him and Yellett were quite often occupying the same space. So, but that's just something that will come with,
and that's something to work on, isn't it?
Yeah, that's just something that will come with with repeated exposures playing that way, and I just hope that. That is our kind of default formation for the rest of the season, and I was a little bit worried that Tonda was going to ruin it in the second half and bottle it on sort of 60 minutes and suddenly go back to
the back five.
Go back to that, but the fact he didn't do it until I think it was about the 89th or 90th minute. By that time, we were kind of done with attacking anyway, and it was just about seeing out the 1-0. So. Fair play. I mean, I've been battering him recently, but I think he the changes he made and stuff like that to the formation and the players he brought on, it was all pretty much spot on yesterday.
You're not the only one that's been giving him a hard time. Steve, your thoughts on the game? Ross Stewart gave us something that we've been missing, wasn't it? It was like a presence and a focus up front.
Yeah, I mean, when you play as direct as we did last night, that obviously comes with kind of having someone that is capable of receiving those passes. I mean, we wouldn't have played that way if Adam Armstrong was starting. But you know that Stewart is capable of not only winning stuff in the air, he's strong and he's willing to mix it with the sort of burliest of sort of ugly championship centre-backs, anything that any team could offer. And Sheffield United are probably up there in terms of the sort of size and structure of their defenders. And yeah, he probably came out on top on most of his duels, I imagine. He was able to lay things off. He dropped into deep holes. But what was noticeable was, I mean, it comes back to, again, partnerships, was that Azaz was actually then feeling the freedom to then go into that space and fill the gap. So it wasn't as if the defence could then kind of step up another 10 yards and squeeze that space. We were still kind of hammering them and forcing them back. They were very uncomfortable. I think probably the only player who didn't look comfortable for most of the evening was Peretz, the keeper. I mean, I don't know if he just got the yips in the second half with his kicking, but it was all over the place, wasn't it? Going left and right. But actually, towards the end of the game, kind of not actually too concerned about that, because the ball goes out of play, you're taking at least 10-15 seconds to get a throw-in back in. So I think then it kind of worked. But the midfield, I think, was key. The substitutions in the second half, there was just that little 5-minute period where Sheffield United had 2 or 3 sort of good runs at us. They didn't really create anything from them, but you could kind of feel the pressure building. And the subs actually, for the first time in ages, it kind of feels, the subs actually improved us and stabilised that midfield. Shade Charles coming in for Azaz, and actually us not going to a flat 3, which would have been understandable, but Charles operating in that 10, and he looked like he'd not been away. His sharpness looked good. He was quick to cover ground. He looked like he was comfortable in that position, despite it being a position I don't think we've played him there at all, have we? Played there a fair bit for Sheffield Wednesday last season, I think, but it's not a role he's played for us before, and yet he seemed to slot into it and look really at home. So that's really promising, I think, for the number of games ahead where. I mean, we've spoken at length, haven't we, where players have had these runs of bad form and we've not been able to switch them out. Like Azaz, we know, has been on a run of... I mean, I thought he was okay for an hour last night, but not to the level that he was before Christmas. But in the past, we've not had anybody really to come in and fill that gap and kind of take the load from him. Whoever we've brought in off the bench we've generally looked a worse team without Azaz in that. But Charles being in there, I think, presents a different option. He's much more athletic, obviously covers a lot more ground a lot more quickly, and especially when you're leading the game and you've got something to hold on to. I think from a sort of defending from the front perspective, bit of a cliche, but it's true. If you're able to cover the ground and defend from the front, and Armstrong did this well as well in the time that he was on the pitch, that he was closing down in the right areas. So you noticed with about 10 minutes to go, there were a couple of times where the ball went back to the keeper and Armstrong wasn't tracking across. He stayed over on our right because actually that side was the side where they were getting the most joy at that point. So it showed that there seemed to be a little bit more intelligence in what we were trying to do. And that kind of went from the start of the game, even through till the end, where games get stretched and things kind of can go a little bit random. We were very good at kind of maintaining our composure, I think, which is something we've not really said about this team all season, frankly.
It was good to have Shay Charles back, though, wasn't it, Alfie? I think we were a little bit. Would it be too soon? How's he going to come back? And actually, yesterday it just looked like he hadn't been away. It looked like his usual confident and composed self.
Yeah, well, he's obviously a very good player. It's an interesting conundrum now because I thought that Yander and Downs did well together yesterday as well, and they've got Cam Bragg, who I think has been brilliant. I would love a penny for Amo-Ameyaw's thoughts at this moment because we brought him in 8 weeks ago thinking that he was going to be a real saviour. Now he doesn't even get on the bus for Doncaster, and he's not going to get ahead of Shay Charles, Cam Bragg, Flynn Downs, or Casper Yander. But no, to have Shay Charles back is brilliant. But I want to pick up on a point you made about Adam Armstrong. I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but I'd be tempted to start him in number 10 behind the striker instead of Finn Azaz, maybe not this weekend. Maybe that's something for the future. But I'd like to see him there. We played him in centre midfield with Russell Martin once. I think it might have been Plymouth.
Yeah,
Plymouth came and he run the game. I'm not saying that's what we should do now, but having him just off Ross Stewart, in that sort of number 10 false 9 position, I'd be intrigued to try that. I thought we're seeing from Azaz exactly what Middlesbrough fans said, which is that he blows hot and cold. Yeah. And he got 6 goals in 7 games, which was brilliant. But he's clearly not in that patch right now. And of course, you can only play yourself into it. But yeah, I'd be intrigued to see that.
Might need a
what
bit of time
Charles gives you when he comes onto the pitch is that he's. That number 10 is kind of the position that's up for grabs if we keep that formation. So you got Azaz is 6 foot plus, you got Shay Charles 6 foot plus, you got Matsuki who's not 6 foot plus. So, and we know the sort of lack of physicality we've got at times. So bringing Shay Charles onto the pitch yesterday, it added another defensive header, corners and things like that. So there's a few choices there depending on how the manager wants to go and the game and how it's working out in front of him, because Matsky provides a lot more a lot of energy. I'd suggest that Charles is probably the best of both worlds when you look at all those 3 players and what one you choose. But yeah, be interesting to see how sort of creative he can be from that number 10 position if that's where we decide to use him going forwards.
I was going to get your thoughts on the goalkeeper as well, Glenn. Steve was mentioning the distribution a little bit there, but
yes,
early days. But it sounds like he's the sort of character that we've been missing maybe in the dressing room. I think Tonda said this week that he was one of the first that kind of spoke up after the defeat at the weekend, and he's only been here a week. And if he's calling out other players already, then he's obviously quite a confident guy, and maybe that's what we've been missing a bit.
It's been mentioned quite a few times that it's a quiet dressing room with not many leaders. So I mean, you brought in this guy. At the end of the day, Bayern Munich have signed him for a reason. So, you know, maybe it's character based as well as, you know, obviously he's a half decent goalkeeper. With regards to his goalkeeping, yeah, his distribution was a bit ropey. He connected with a couple with his left foot at the start of the game, and I thought, oh, he's left-footed. I didn't realise that. And then he connected one with his right foot, and I thought, oh, he's good. He's good with both feet. And then there was a horrible shank along the ground with his left foot. Oh God, what's he doing? But you know, he came and caught a cross, and I think everyone held their breath because we don't have goalkeepers that do that normally.
Yeah.
So that was decent. Yeah, and of course, you know, he made what was the vital save in the last minute. It was really the only real chance that Sheffield United had at the end of the game, and it was a bit of a mistake between Harwood-Bellis and Yeller, kind of left it to each other, and Bamford sort of bundled his way through. And it was a decent save, and that obviously preserved the 3 points, which means we go into Sunday with a little bit more optimism than we otherwise would have had. So at the end of the day, though he's not perfect, no player that we sign on loan is going to be perfect. He hasn't played for a long time.
Halfway through the season,
yeah,
right? So you're going to be limited with
Manchester City go and sign Donnarumma on the last day of the transfer window. We're not going to do that. So
not this year.
So so to get him in, I think he's an upgrade on what we had, and I think he's only going to get better really. So as he plays more games, he's going to be tested on Sunday for sure.
Yeah, well, we'll get onto that in just a moment.
Things about Daniel Perez that I thought is when me and George from the Echo watched his clips of these last couple of seasons, albeit there aren't many of them, he hasn't played any games. We didn't see him as a goalkeeper that was commanding of his area and would come out and claim crosses and things like this. So, but then he mentioned in his first club sort of interview that I'm a commanding goalkeeper when I come out for stuff, and we sort of thought, okay, that's a bit weird. Maybe we've not seen the right things, but we've watched pretty much everything he's done. So I honestly don't know if he is that kind of goalkeeper, but he's clearly showing a willingness and a keenness to do it, because I think he's been told, or he understands, that that's what they want here and that's what they need. So I think at the end of the day, as Glenn says, he hasn't played for a couple of years. We've got to give him a chance to get into it. We can all comfortably say here that unfortunately Gavin Bazunu wasn't good enough to play for Southampton right now. He's only 23 years old. He's had a bad injury this week, it sounds like, with 6 weeks out of Stoke, which is unfortunate for him, unfortunate for Stoke, who are paying his wages and paid us some money to take him. So we've done well out of that. But clearly he wasn't good enough. So I said to on Twitter, the credit to Spores and co for getting that done early on in the window. It doesn't mean that I'm defending Johannes Spores for anything else that's happened, but they have sorted that out quite quickly. And fingers crossed he can put sort of all those bits that Glenn mentioned together with that leadership and a bit of commandeering of the area and be a good goalkeeper.
Anything else on the Sheffield United game yesterday before we move on? A nice warm reception for Danny Ings, which was good.
I just didn't do anything,
We
did
were
he?
more aggressive all over the park. We won more challenges, more second balls, and that makes a huge difference. Won the ball high quite a few times. We seem to be pressing a lot better. I mean, I thought the four players in the back four, that they all got stuck in. They all won their headers. I thought Wellington was excellent. I'd much rather than my favourite left back who wasn't playing yesterday. But it even seemed to positively affect him, because Ryan Manning got stuck in properly when he came onto the pitch as well. So maybe he's felt a little bit comfortable with his place in the team up till now, and now he realises that, well, certainly in a back four you've got to do defending. There is nowhere to hide. You can't be halfway up the wing and letting play go on behind you. So yeah, I think he's another one where I think you take away the ability to hide a little bit, and everyone has to do a job. And I just really, really hope that we persist with that going forward. And those four that played on yesterday, they deserve to play again on Sunday.
I've been reading Glenn's little cheat sheet over his shoulder since we got here, and
One of the shopping list.
one of the things he's got written down is Wilder comments. Really? Question mark. And I think he's referring to the fact that Chris Wilder was quite adamant that he believes that Sheffield United should have got something out of that game. I just wanted to get your take on
what
that.
game is he watching?
It's just deflection, isn't it? It's classic
Yeah.
deflection. I mean, if you anyone who watched the pod from Sunday, we had Chad, the American Sheffield United fan. Yeah, he's probably still talking. He sent me a message after the game about Wilder's comments, and just basically, I can't repeat what he said because it won't go out on Voice FM. So I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, he basically said there's a big split in the Sheffield United fan base between those who think Chris Wilder's the saviour and those who think he's an idiot. And Chad is firmly in the idiot camp, and I think quotes like he came out with after that game saying they should have won 3-1 and part of the reason why.
Yeah, so you called this out, right? So there's not many teams that we've won. Is it 6 on the bounce?
Yeah. So there's only 4 teams they've beaten 6 times in a row in the league in the club's history, and Sheffield United is one of them. I think it's Newport County, Crystal Palace, and Hull, the other 3. But also, Chris Wilder has lost all 6 league games as a manager against Saints.
Love it.
So perfect storm.
Love it. There was definitely a feeling of relief in the room when we were talking about the game before we started tonight. Right, I think we'll put that one to bed, and we'll move on to the big game at the weekend. Just a small matter of the South Coast Derby. I'm pleased to say that to help us preview this game, we've got a couple of special guests who are with us. They've both played in the match before, so they've got more to talk about than we have. First up, a man who made over 230 appearances for Saints, scoring 76 goals, played in that FA Cup final, capped for his country, scored a few goals against Pompey as well over the years. James Beattie is with us tonight. And also joining us is a player who made 95 appearances for the club between 1983 and 1987, won a league runners-up medal in his first season, sent off 12 times in his career, and he was dubbed Psycho long before Stewart Pearce even started playing football. Please put your hands together for the legend that is Mark Dennis, who's with us. Evening, gents. Thanks for joining us. James, I must just start, I guess, with how's the new job going? Because you're up the road at Reading now, right?
Yeah, I went to Reading 1st of November as assistant manager. Really enjoying it. Good club. Training ground's phenomenal. Got some good young players. The window's open and the chairman's actually over. So he was over, and then he loves fireworks, and he was climbing a ladder, and he fell off the ladder and fractured his femur, and he was going to get his hip done in 3 months. So he said, "Oh, I'll just do them both at the same time." So he's been actually staying at the training ground in in one of the bedrooms. So having him there is good, because he's been in the meetings, and he's been talking to us and getting to know us, which is great. It's brilliant.
There's a lesson there, right?
No, I know. Yeah. Well, yeah, it wasn't me pushing off ladder. But no, it's been really good. Enjoying it. Training ground's phenomenal. Like I said, we signed 3 players in this window, which will make us better, and hopefully we can keep going on that upward trajectory that we've shown since we went in.
And have you seen many of the Saints games this season? What have you made of the season so far?
When I was out of work, I used to come down, nearly to every game. And last night is the first one I've seen for a while. But a few of my friends are here who go to the games, and I try and watch Southampton as a fan, because I'm a football fan like everybody else. And it's the only football games I get frustrated at. Sometimes, when we're not playing well, and being a sort of ambassador for Saints Foundation and well sort of linked with the club, got to be careful sometimes. But yeah, it's I think just the managerial turnover and the managerial appointments haven't really suited the club, and I just think it's. But being a fan, you're always optimistic, or at least I am. I'm a half full glass man, and in some aspects the club's growing in really good areas. But as always, what goes on that green stuff out there is vitally important to any other part of what the club's doing. And I know the work's being put in to try and get that right. And that's the path we're on. And the life of being a football fan. I'm a Southampton fan. I came from Blackburn, but when I came at 20 years old, I understood pretty quickly in the dressing room with the players that were in there what it meant to represent the club and the city. And I'd like to think over the years that I was here, I forged a really good relationship with the fans because of how I performed. I'm a working class lad. I know that when I entered football at 16, I knew I had to work harder than everybody else because I was a late starter. And I think, that's probably been the thing that I've heard the most from the fans about the players not really getting the club or not putting it in or not putting effort in. Whereas I'm sure it'll be the same for Mark. For us, that's the absolute given. Because if you're lucky enough in your career to wear our badge, then you certainly put blood and sweat on it when you go out there.
What is it like being in that dressing room when results aren't quite going right? Were you sort of like looking to yourselves and asking questions of yourselves, or is that when the leaders step up and
you've always got to look at yourself? And if you don't look at yourself and you sort of, it's said that we do live in a blame culture, and it's never whoever's fault. But if you don't look at yourself first, you've no room for growth. And I think that's I'm sure even more so in Mark's day, but you had people that were outspoken, and if you weren't performing, if you weren't trying, they'd come and dig you out straight away.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to be sort of liked as much as the current generation, as it were.
Yeah.
But that's got to be broken down, because this is professional sport. And digging someone, I would always say to any players that I'm working with, you can only dig someone out. Do it in the right way, but always make sure you've got your own house in order first.
Yeah.
So if you can spot the ones that'll do it, they'll go around pointing the finger and they're having a torrid or a nightmare themselves. But get your own house in order, and then you can start pointing the finger. But I don't think they like pointing the finger anymore, or even shouting or encouraging. Which again, as a coach, that's the sort of formula that whichever team you're working with, that's the sort of formula that you have to try and master. You can't mourn about it. That's the situation you're in, and we've got to try and do it. And I'm massively into the psychological side of the game anyway, so yeah. I think that's helped me, with the relationships I've had with players over the years I've been coaching, and a lot of them still call me now, even though I've not coached them for 5, 6, 7 years. With whatever level of success that they've had.
Yeah. Mark, were you really sent off 12 times in your career? Is that right?
That it? Unfortunately, I was actually.
So that was, if they had VAR in the 80s, would that be more or less?
Possibly more. There was, I'll say that there was one time I wasn't actually playing with QBR against Spurs, and our dealist tried to nutmeg me, and he went down and he didn't, and I just got hold of his shirt and he fell down, and that buffoon Keith Hackett, which I think runs the football now, sent me off. And I always remembered Jim Smith, actually, down the road. He was our manager at QPR, and we was going through the time at when the Argentinian war was on there, and Jim come running out the pitch. He said, "Well, he should have shot you with the rest of them." Honest, with that. So
different time.
I was up before the FA, 52-day ban, and Jim got, I think, a 14-day ban and 2 heavy fines. So that wasn't a good start.
You've seen a bit of football as well this season, here, probably more than some of us. What's been missing this season for you? Why has it not quite clicked?
Well, I've watched the game. Well, it did click when he got the job. Time that he got the job, it clicked. Yeah. Went down. I was at the Charlton game, and we just played so freely, with the ball and that, playing it into the front man, getting it back, moving. But unfortunately, when he got the job, and I think it's a big fear factor. He got the job. And he thought, all of a sudden, he had that fear factor. You know what I mean? 5 at the back was always a disaster for me. You can't play 5 at home. You've got to go 4-4-2. Everyone knows what they're doing, for one. You get Fellows on the right. He gives us a great outlet. We don't want him playing at right back. That's exactly what was happening with that. And it also frees Leo to go. But the big problem was the front man. I mean, I was saying earlier, if you look at the teams, Wrexham down here, Derby's going to come down here. I think is it Davison they got up front. You've got Kiefer Moore, which is a big man, big physical presence. And I'll tell you what, that's what you need in this league. I mean, up front, no disrespect to Archer and you've got Adam Armstrong, but it's hi-ho. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's just no physical presence there. And you need, and in this league, I tell you, everyone can beat everyone.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, the game, we're going down to Pompey, we're moving on to that. We're going down there. That game is brutal. I've played in Aston Villa versus Birmingham, played for Birmingham, a local derby down there, brutal. When I first come in '84, come to Southampton, Jesus, I could not believe it. 36,000 in that dreadful ground of theirs. Do you know what I mean? Going down there, and I'll tell you what, it was heaven. But I'll tell you what, and I say this today, that first 20 minutes, we got to silence that crowd. Because if we don't, we will go under. 84, Mickey Mills, our club captain, said, we go out, we fight for this club. I'll tell you, win our personal battles. That was important. We done that, and everything will come after that. And it was it. But I tell you what, these boys have got to know what this game means to Southampton. Not only them as players, the supporters, what it means, bragging rights. You know what I mean? The thought of them celebrating a win in their caravans is going to kill me. Do you know? Absolutely unbelievable.
When we said that you were coming on, there was a Pompey fan that got in touch and he asked for the coins back that he threw at you back in the 80s. It was a different environment back then, wasn't it?
Well, it was, and I had a little cut on my head, and actually I'd love to know the fella that threw it, because I'll tell you what, that extra time enabled me a long throw to Frank Worthington, his opposite foot out to Dave Armstrong, God bless his soul now, he's not with us no more. A great ball with his into Steve Moran, left-footed pass Alan Knight, 8,000 supporters behind the goal. It was fantastic, and the whistle blew, we went off, it was great. I always remember Laurie McMenemy, this was out, he had this new suit, as we we run off actually, as he come in the dressing room, and it was absolutely vile, his suit was covered in phlegm, because he had been spat at. Do you know what I mean? And we couldn't even go out the dressing room afterwards, because our coaches was being stoned. It was absolutely unbelievable. And I said earlier, I got out because Mick Mills said to me, come on, we've got to go and have a drink. We're buzzing. We went out and Fred Dinage is walking along. And I went, all right, Fred. He went, and you can fuck off. But he did apologise to me later on because he works at the university. But no, they were fantastic times. Absolutely great.
You were at that game as well, weren't you, Glenn? Were you on the terraces back in '84?
It's a bit of a story that. So I was 15 years old, and the context is that at the time we lived in Waterlooville, which is about 5 miles north of Portsmouth. So all my mates were Pompey fans. So when that game got drawn out, couldn't get a ticket for the Saints end of the ground. So my dad, being an idiot, said, "Oh no, we've got a PO postcode. We'll be able to get one for the Pompey end." So we got one for the North Terrace, which is not the main it's down one of the sides. And I remember standing on that terrace, 15 years old, and I'm a bit worried. I'm thinking, lots of people are coming who I know. Am I going to get outed here? So we thought we better try and blend in with the Pompey fans. So what we did, so I blacked some of my teeth out, grew an extra finger on each hand. And the way we really blended in was throwing coins at Mark Dennett. So you owe me £7.50, mate. No, what we actually did was stand there terrified, and you kind of very, very quietly, and I just remember thinking, 89 minutes, we're going to get out alive, and it's in typical Saints fashion. Never do what you bloody want. Goal goes in the last minute, and it's just, I just remember the noise that I made. It was sort of quietly walking back up the Eastern Road, got in the car, and it wasn't until we got in the front door that we felt like, time to celebrate sort of thing. And then football practice on Monday at school, I got absolutely kicked to shit.
James, you played a few games, scored a couple of goals as well. Fond memories of those games, and certainly celebrations, I'd imagine, in front of their away fans. It's quite iconic.
Yeah, I mean the games are. There was a massive build up to the first game of the season because it was there was the summer break and all that, and then it was a bit of a non-event, as it were. But the build up to the games is tremendous in the city. Like Mark said, you know what it means to the fans, and we were sort of taught that straight. I don't think I played in a derby for a couple of years or a few years, but as it was coming along, it sort of builds. But you already knew what them games were like and what you needed to do, how you needed to prepare, and how you needed to perform, whether that be here at St Mary's or down at Fratton Park. But yeah, I used to get abused by them, and the celebration in the cup game was just it's pretty. Yeah, the fact that Southampton fans loved that moment, but I just thought I wasn't thinking about anything like that. I was just thinking about them and just telling them to shut up, really.
Was it planned in advance, or was it just?
No, it was just spontaneous, and the best way always, because I in my sort of thought process, if the fans weren't booing you, or then you weren't a danger. Mm. And I used to get booed at most grounds, but especially off them, because it's the local rivals. And I've got a great picture, actually, at home, and it must be taken from sort of the side of the pitch there, facing back, so then it's me and then the Pompey fans, and they're all in the background. So that's quite a big picture in our house, which is nice.
Let's talk about the game, Alfie. I guess the big question is, does he stick with the back four that kept the clean sheet, or do you think he might bottle it and go with the back five? What's your gut feeling?
Well, I suspected that he would bottle it and go for a back five against Hull, and that was correct, unfortunately. I think after Wednesday is a tap-in. You play almost the same team as much as you can, if I'm being honest. It might be exactly the same team, potentially.
I'd go the same level.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Che Charles is one that you could potentially bring in, but no, you've got to play the same team. At the end of the day, the relationships we spoke about for the first half of this show, they're all building. Leo Sen's in the right place, Tom's in the right place. Yeah, you've got to go for it. It's a big opportunity for the boys, to be fair, because every one of us here has obviously been critical. Every single person in this room has been critical of what has happened over the last 6 months. But given the fact they've won last night, I think that they can change that really quickly. If you go there and win by a couple of goals, like Pete says, shut the Pompey fans up. It gives us everybody a lift, and then it's only 17 games until the end of the season. It's the running at that point. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. I've never been to Fratton Park for a first team game, so that will be interesting. I think you've got to go with the same team. I did just want to say that about Mark Dennis. I don't want to embarrass you, but obviously everybody in here is obviously a big supporter of TSP, and we really appreciate that. But I think if you're looking for a number one fan of Total Saints podcast, you have to look at this bloke here. Every single week I'm here at St Mary's in the press room, I'm just typing away or eating my lunch, whatever it is, and I feel these two big firm hands on my shoulders. And he comes booming over, he's talking about Glenn, what Glenn said. He said, I love the podcast. So, yeah, legend, mate, we really appreciate it.
And by the way, I'm not going to sing, Glenn.
That's why we didn't play the theme tune at the start. Start playing up when the Saints has a microphone lying around. Steve, would you say you keep with the same team for the weekend, you think?
I would. I'm not sure. I'm not sure the manager agrees, but that's certainly what I would do. Yeah, what Alfie said in terms of the partnerships and the way the structure just looked and felt comfortable. It felt like something where you could switch players in and out of, and it wouldn't upset the apple cart. Whereas we've seen constantly all season when we've made substitutions in the second halves of games that the formation just falls apart. There's no structure, and that kind of feels like part of the reason why our second half performances have been so poor for most of the season, because players come in and actually they're not comfortable in what they're being asked to do. Whereas the system that we played last night, that we started the game with and played up until, I think, 89, 90 minutes or so, was a system that this team has played so often in the past. Obviously not necessarily all the same players. There's been obviously big turnover, but I think having that, Flynn Downs, I think, is kind of a bit of a bellwether for this team, in that when he's not on his game, the team falls apart around him. When he plays well, the team fits together and everything looks like it works. And he had a pretty good game last night, one of his best of the season, relatively low bar, but I think it looks, it just feels as if players feel more natural in that system. And I think if you go back to what we were playing before, it feels like, possibly a bit of a strong word to use, but it feels like the cowardly way out. You can't go down to Fratton Park as the team that was in the Premier League last season, with the budget that we've got compared to what their budget is. And you can't go down there and you wave a white flag and you play with 5 at the back. They play with 1 up top, big lump Colby Bishop, who, I mean, may be fit, might not be, don't know. But they're not going to be playing sort of 2 or 3 that are going to be sort of buzzing around 3 centre backs. You don't need 3 centre backs to deal, or you shouldn't need 3 centre backs to deal with 1 centre forward.
By all accounts, their captain Connor Shaughnessy,
he's done for the season.
Done for the season. That they're going to have to play a fullback at centre back. Apparently, and to be fair, we've been in games this season where they've had
11 players out,
11 players missing, and we've still lost. But there is going to be a weakness at that back line, and let's be frank, that Pompey are rubbish as well. They're at the bottom end of the table for a reason. So yes, it's a different game, but I totally agree with Steve. You've got to go there. You've got to be brave.
Does form count for anything, Glenn? Not that either team are in particularly good form, but
I mean,
confidence here and there, but I think not really.
Yeah, I mean, we owe them, I believe, for the game at St Mary's, because it was terrible. It was terrible. They made it terrible. If you remember going back to that game, I had to reread about this because the game was so unmemorable. I'd kind of forgotten about it. But then I remembered. Do you remember they started wasting time from the first minute? Like the ball went out of play for a throw in. The guy, I can't find the ball. And the ball was in play for about 30 seconds out of the first 5 minutes. They tried to sort of like take the steam out of the game that way. In some ways, you got to respect it. It was actually, it worked for them. They sort of like quietened it down, and we didn't get a fast start, and we didn't get out of first gear the whole game. And Mark used the word earlier on, we played with fear in that game. We just sat back. We didn't take any risks around halfway to try and get our players breaking on them. And it was just terrible. And we played into their hands, really. What they could do was basically walk to halfway with no real challenge, and then lump the ball long to Bishop, and they tried to get Josh Murphy. Is he fit?
Apparently not,
because he was their best player. So, it was a terrible game, and they're fans. You know what they're like. You've only got to look on X, Twitter, whatever, and you've got the same old bollocks. We're the best fans. We're the best this. We're the best that, and it's just like I just can't be dealing with that.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
So we've got to go down there and try and impose our game on them, and not be scared of what they're going to do.
There is the Ross Stewart conundrum, though. If we play Ross Stewart for 60 minutes again, he comes off and he's done for the season. Are we going to be sat here like we were at Derby saying, why have we done this? Why have we played him too many times? The big difference being they had played 80 minutes back to back before they played him at Derby, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, they tried to play him 3 games.
3 games in a row, yeah. But do you think there's any danger in playing Ross Stewart again from the start? And if there is this the one game where you've got to use him?
I don't know. It's one of those things that we're guessing at, isn't it? Because, we all got annoyed earlier on in the season when we're 0-0 and he takes Cienza off, saying I need to manage his minutes, and you kind of, I don't know what goes on in the medical room and what players have been told, or what the manager's been told about certain players. But I would hope, given that it's been 4 days, that they've wrapped Ross Stewart in cotton wool, and he can at least start the game and play a major part of it, because we're a different team with him in it. But I think you mentioned earlier about the transfer windows and Johannes Spores and stuff like that. It's a major problem that we've gone into the season with just one player of that profile, and he's been injured basically for 3 years. So, but he was a glimmer of hope when he come on against Hull and he got his goal, and he carried that on and had a decent performance yesterday. So yeah, I would imagine that he will start.
Also, Glenn, just saying about that, well, just harping back to the things about injuries. Just saying, I was at the Millwall game. I heard they've got loads of injuries. whole game. I've lost loads of injuries. We've gone out and, to be fair, played shambolic. Terrible. So I don't think we can look into that too much, you know what I mean? It's about focusing on us as a team, getting out there, winning our personal battles, as I've said. We win our personal battles down there because player to player, we are better. We win our personal battles, we show a little bit of fight, we win the game. Simple as that.
I can't imagine anyone managed all minutes back in the day. That'd be an interesting conversation, wouldn't it? We're not going to play him at a week, we're going to manage his minutes. Would that be your message if you were doing the pre-match team talk? Is that what you'd say?
Well, I'm not a great stats person, you know what I mean? I don't like change. I've never known a team score playing backwards, basically. And that's what we've done. I mean, we've done that a lot. We've been losing games 2-0, and we've been playing keep ball. Keeper throwing it out underarm, and that is just not. And I think the quicker we get rid of Pep Guardiola out of our football in general, the better it will be, and get back to what. But we can see it coming back now. The long throws coming back. You know what I mean? Hitting the front man, getting the joiners in. It's slowly coming. So I'm hopeful about that.
James, your message to the team before Sunday, if you were having a word, if you're doing that final session.
I think Mark's spot on. I think an understanding of what it means to play in the game, what it means to win it. But we say it every week. You've got to win your duels. You've got to earn the right to play. And this sort of being risk averse and going defensive, and we use language like they have to match us. We don't have to match them. They have to match what we do when we go on the pitch. And I think, it's got to mean something to the players that are playing, and hopefully they have a better understanding from the first game, with a little shoots of growth from last night, with on the back of a bad run. Now they've got a 3 points going into that game, and they've got to just make sure they're prepared physically, mentally, in every way possible to go down to Fratton, because that's a difficult place to go and play, and the atmosphere is hostile, and they'll make it that way. But we've got to be prepared and ready, as I say, physically, mentally, for that, and for them to come at us, and then for us to rebound that, and then impose our style of football on the game. And it'll be difficult, but that's the sort of messages that would be going into the team.
Feeling a bit more confident now. I don't know about you. I'm going to ask you for some score predictions in just a moment. We will, if anybody wants to ask any of the guys a question, by the way, we've set up a microphone just over there. So just if you want to get up, make your way over, that's absolutely fine. If you don't, but if there are any questions for any of the guys, now's the time to flag Alex down and he'll sort that out. You'll be on the coach at what, 7:30 in the morning?
8 o'clock is my one.
It's a 12 o'clock kickoff, right?
They're doing it in stages. They're doing it in batches. There are some that are boarding at 7:30. And this is like end of January. It's going to be freezing cold, and some of us will probably be at Fratton in the sort of compound they're building.
Can you get a beer
around the ground? I'm assuming so, because we let them have beers here.
In the morning.
We let them have beers here, and obviously we've got the outdoor kind of penned off bit here, and I assume they're doing similar, but obviously they're having to build it down there. But yeah, I'm assuming we're going to be able to get a beer. I mean, how many people are going to want a beer when it's like 3 degrees in the middle of January and at 9:30 on a Sunday morning?
Still quite a lot of people.
Well, probably, yeah. But it's just not going to be a particularly fun environment, is it? And it's one of those where I think as a fan, if you get a decent start in the game, you've got something to kind of grab onto, and you can kind of take it through the game with just a bit of momentum and pure sort of adrenaline. I think if we start the game badly, then all of a sudden that kind of drains out. And I mean, we've seen in so many games here this season and away games where if the team isn't kind of at the pace that we kind of feel is kind of appropriate, I guess, then the energy levels from the crowd saps as well. Like the performance does mirror what's going on in the stands. And I think that's one of the things that the team, I'm sure they're aware of it. I'm sure they are well aware that when their performance drops, they get they get a much sort of stronger negative reaction from the stands. But they also know that going into this game, that because the home support is going to be more vociferous than normal, the away support will match.
It's something we didn't actually mention in the Sheffield United review, but the atmosphere in St Mary's in the second half yesterday was unbelievable. Even not to dig anybody out in the chapel, but even the chapel was as loud as a Northam at times, and the players responded to that. So I think you're absolutely spot on. It doesn't take a genius to work that out.
It was noticeable the empty gaps last night. I mean, obviously partly it's a midweek game, so naturally there are some people that just can't make it for whatever reason.
Well,
but I think a lot of people didn't go last night through choice.
Yeah, perhaps they listened to you on Sunday. Didn't bother.
If they did, then I mean, we'll take an assist for the 3 points.
I think you remember, obviously, before the last Pompey game in September, a load of ex-players went in to talk to the current team and to, I guess, explain the significance of the derby and what was expected of them. And obviously that ended up being a damp squib, but I think every single person at that dressing room will be well aware of what this means to everybody in the terrace. Let's just hope they can produce.
Let's do some score predictions. This is the thing that we do for every game. Over 80 people predicted or got involved in our predictions for the game yesterday. 30 got the correct result, but 0 correct scores. Only one of the 30 people thought that we'd keep a clean sheet. So where's the faith? It's all evaporated at the moment.
We've all watched it.
Let's just go along. Score prediction, Mark. I'm going to start with you and work back this way. How do you see it playing out on Sunday?
The thought of me, I just can't think of losing. I'm going to go 1-1.
James?
2-1 Saints.
Glenn?
I'll go 1-0 Saints with John Massinio trying to do a funny handshake with Tonda at the end of the game. It would be quite nice to. I didn't really have an opinion on him too much. He always sounds reasonable when you hear him on the radio, but I thought he acted like a complete plum when he was down here. So playing up to the camera sort of thing. So hopefully he's not having a terribly good afternoon on Sunday.
I think we have seen a bit more bite from Tonda in the last week as well. I felt Tonda's been really passive so far as a manager, certainly what we see. But I think in the last week or so, he's feeling the edge a little bit, and that's actually bringing a side out of him that I quite like. It's a shame we won't get Will Steele versus Massinio too, but I am looking forward to that.
No.
My prediction, I'm going to go for a 1-0 win as well. I think we'll repeat the result.
Okay, fair enough, Steve.
2 clean sheets on the bounce. I think if last night had gone badly, I think my prediction would have been very sort of doom and gloom. But I think a lot will depend on what that lineup is. As soon as that team sheet goes out, if you've got fellows at right wing back, then it'll be like, oh God, really? We could be in for a long old afternoon. But I'm going to kind of hope that last night showed enough that we're going to stick with that system, stick with most of those same players, if not all of them. And if we do, we'll be too good for them. 3-1.
3-1, nice. Okay.
Totally wrong.
Zan Phillips, have you got a question?
Yes, I have actually. My question is to the players, and this comes from a couple of comments I've heard on TSP recently. And has there ever been a half-time chat that you've experienced that's changed your attitude towards the second half? As in, you've come in, the team's been not playing very well, and someone's actually stood up and said something, and that has changed the whole team's attitude to the next half.
Yeah, I'll take that if that's
Yeah,
all
go on.
right, James. It happens at Southampton, actually, and it didn't change much. It was down at Kenneth Road at Luton. We lost 7-0 on the plastic pitch. I don't know if anyone ever remembers that. We were beating everyone at the time, and we come in at half time. I think, if I'm right, it was 3 or 4 at half time. And in them days, we had cups, because there was cups of tea and all that, and the cups were flying around the room, and it was hostile in that dressing room. But it didn't do much for us, to be fair, because we struggled. We was like Bambies on ice on that pitch. It was new. That was no excuse, because we trained on that. Actually, it was in Southampton on one of their pitches somewhere. We trained it, so that was no excuse. And I remember after the game coming off, we got absolutely still. Me and Stevie Williams walked out and saw the fans, and we got they slaughtered us. And that's right, we had to take it on the chin. We were absolutely diabolical that day, and we got what we deserved, a lashing from the fans. And sometimes we always went over to fans after winning or losing, and losing heavily. We all went out, and whatever you got from abuse, that comes with a job. And sometimes it just really irritates me when you see players now scuttle off. I know Leo always goes across, and I think that's a big thing, because our fans this season, our away fans, have been unbelievable, taking thousands, and people just talking, the boys talking about the crowd dipping down, loads of empty seats. This season, it's been unbelievable. 30,000 against Millwall. We've had 29, 28. I think it was 25 the other day. What they've had to go through, our supporters and us, is unbelievable. And we've turned up in thousands. And I'll tell you what, they're magnificent for that.
I kind of feel like we need these two to do the team talk at half-time on Sunday. We're going to have a bit of a chat about the Saints Foundation, James, and I'm going to ask you to just stick around for that. But can I just get you to give your round of applause again for James Beattie and Mark Dennis, because you're both welcome back any time. Thank you, Mark.
Hi, mate.
Mark, I'm going to ask you to swap places with Sam, if you don't mind. The Saints Foundation are the official charity of Southampton Football Club. So joining us tonight is their managing director, who's Sam Fulling. Give Sam a round of applause, please. We pass that down for Sam.
Thanks so much.
You're all good, I think. We're all good.
We on?
For those that don't already know, do you mind just telling us a bit about the Saints Foundation and the fantastic work that you do?
Yeah, of course. So hopefully some of you will already know, but Saints Foundation is the charity of Southampton Football Club. Our work is about delivering projects in the city of Southampton, and we've got a great city here, a city we all love, a city we're all connected to, but we've also got a city with some significant challenges. We are a kind of a city with some significant inequalities. So where we look at health, we've got some really big health inequalities. We've got a much lower than national average health expectancy. We've got almost a fifth of older adults who are living in isolation. We have got a city where quite a violent, high crime city, which we're fifth highest in the country for crime deprivation, third highest when it comes to violence with injury. We've got a fairly low school attendance, fairly school low attainment, and we've also got a city where it's in the top 10% toughest places to be a girl. So we've got some real challenges in the city, and our work is about addressing those challenges, being really targeted with who we work with, working with those people who are most impacted by that inequality, ultimately, to make people's lives better.
So how does the link work between the club and the foundation?
So we're hugely fortunate. Obviously, you guys are all here because you're fans of the football club, and our football club is a club that cares about its community. So the charity is an independent charity, but ultimately very much woven into the fabric of the club. We are here every day. We're based in the stadium, and one of our biggest USPs is about how we use the club and the club's brand. And you see it really, really clearly in our work out in the community, in the way that people engage with us. So the fact that the staff wear the badge out in the community is a real cut through, especially amongst some of our young people, and you really see that in some of our schools work, where the staff really are like the Pied Piper walking through the corridors. You've got people following them, and some of that is a cut through the badge. It's a conversation starter, and they're not staff of the school. They are a bit different, and so we are hugely fortunate with the support we get from the club. We get access to all the resources here in the stadium. It is a real point of aspiration and hope for many of our participants. It's a real anchor for many people in the same way that it is for our fans. And so we are hugely fortunate with the support we get from the club with everything we do. And that includes our players. So having our players being out and about in the community, they really do make a difference. And that's both our men's and our women's team. We've got some fantastic role models. And when you see that in the community, I sometimes wish you could bottle that and bring it here on a match day, because you see the players as human beings, and actually they do make a difference with what they do. And that's something we're really, really proud of. And yeah, we are fortunate with all the work that the club does in the community. We want everyone to feel proud of that.
And ex-players as well?
Yeah, you've got a couple here today. We've got James as ambassador, who's a fantastic ambassador in terms of both connecting with the people we work with, but also being willing to do things for us. So a number of our ex-players also support. We've got a number of the ex-Saints who are looking to support our Saints by Our Side initiative, which is an initiative for men with poor mental health, and that's a really, really good link for some of those guys to talk about their experiences around sport. So, yeah, we're hugely fortunate with the support we get from players across the generations.
And next week you're launching your Impact campaign, which I think you've done before. Do you want to tell us a bit about the Impact campaign?
Yeah. So our Impact report here, there's a few copies at the back if you do want to have a read. This is really our opportunity to share with everyone the great work we've been doing across the last year. We, as a charity, we worked with 6,511 participants across last season. That's 2.4% of the Southampton population, which is huge for a charity of our size and scale. Of those people, 5,545 achieved a positive outcome, and ultimately that's something that's really personal to people. It's different for everyone, but it is something which is a positive outcome towards a better future. It might be about getting a job, it might be about school attendance, it might be about improved well-being or improved family relationship. And everything we do is towards those outcomes. But we've also done something called social value. Social value is about putting a pound sign towards things which aren't usually measured like that. And so for every pound we spent on our projects, we generate a social value back into the city of £6.46. Ultimately, that all adds up to £10.46 million of social value. Just huge. That's not the city paying that. That is us as a charity putting that into the city. And those numbers are all great, but it's also our work is about the people. And it's about people's stories. It's about someone like Erin, who post-COVID really struggled to connect with friends and family. And it wasn't until engaged with some of our work that her mum talked about being able to get her back. It's like someone like Curtis, who has struggled to find a job because of some of his mental health conditions. Through our work, been able to find a career. And through some of the links within the football club, has been able to find a job which he now has a purpose in life. It's like someone like Richard, one of our Senior Saints participants, who, after losing someone in his life, has been able to find friendship and ultimately been able to maintain his independence as he grows older. So the impact is not just numbers, it's about people's lives, and this work genuinely does make a difference.
And do the fans understand it? Is it? Do you struggle with explaining to the fans why they should care about something like this? To put it bluntly,
should probably ask you guys on the panel, to be honest. But I think what for the foundation and for us, what everyone here is a fan. Everyone here is connected with this football club. We hope that the football club is successful, but even if it's not, we keep coming back week after week. It's a sense of belonging here in the stadium. It's a piece of hope and aspiration for everyone who is a fan. And ultimately, our work as a charity is about translating that out to the community to try and use the power of that badge to take that hope and that optimism to make people's lives better. And although it's our foundation staff doing the work, the charity and the work we're doing is everyone's in this room. It's every single person connected to the club. So I want, and everyone connected to a charity wants, every single person, as a fan, a staff member, our players. We want people to feel proud of this work because it is about what the club is doing and caring about its community to make people's lives better. So if there's one thing I could send you away with today, I want everyone to feel proud of what this club does because it is a huge amount and a huge commitment to our community.
And it's easy to forget that at times.
You asked why should people care about it? I mean, I genuinely come in and say that I've been here for about 5 years in Southampton, and I've tried to get involved with the Saints Foundation stuff, where I can. I've been to a couple of the impact meetings. I've been to a couple of the sessions they put on with the people, and it's honestly such a wide-reaching charity that it's almost unbelievable the different types of things that they provide for people in Southampton. You're talking primary school children, inspiration, meeting players, learning to do new skills they couldn't do. Secondary school kids who've maybe dropped out of the system a little bit, they get help back in. They avoid being on the streets and going into prisons. You get people who go into prison, they get support when they come out from Saints Foundation. You've got women's and girls, which you mentioned, but it's not with agenda and prejudice. You've got sessions for men who feel difficult speaking up about mental health, men only sessions. You've got elderly getting active and fit. And I'm not part of the Saints Foundation, and I'm saying this, it is such a wide-reaching charity that I genuinely believe that if you're in Southampton, you should support it. It's amazing. The sessions I've seen, it's been really inspirational.
You've got a few things coming up as well, haven't you? Like Ben Ali's big walk. Do you just want to do a quick little bit about that? Because I know there's a few of us that are potentially thinking about this.
weekend away, then a trip to Preston is what you want. Franny Benali, as obviously an absolute club legend, one of our ambassadors and also a trustee, since his Iron Fran days has taken on some lower level challenges, but for most of us they're pretty challenging.
Lower level challenges.
This is our fourth iteration of our Benali on Tour event. So we're here in Preston and doing the 10 peaks of the Lake District. It will be a pretty challenging walk, but a really great weekend. Anyone who's taken part before comes back feeling a bit broken, but also a sense of real pride in achieving things and a sense of community and camaraderie. So the trip to Preston will be a really good opportunity, but we'll go to the game afterwards. We keep that group together. It's a really big fundraiser for us. People can take on a challenge, but there are loads of things that people can take on. We've got runners in the ABP half marathon, 10K. We've got people take on walking challenges. We've got an event on Britannia coming up. Okay. So P&O Cruises is the headline partner, but also a supporter of the foundation, are donating Britannia to us to be able to run a lunch on board, which is incredible. So you've got a whole range of really active stuff to having a nice lunch on the menu.
I think we worked out this week that Glenn and Benali are the same age, aren't they? So you'll be up for the ball.
That's really similar, yes. To any sort of fitness levels. But yeah, we are the same age. I played against him in a schoolboys game, donkeys, years ago. I think we were probably about 14, but he already had a full beard and moustache, and yeah, I just remember it. Friends up the whole game. Couldn't get near him. So. He was England schoolboys at the time, and I wasn't.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I won't hold that against you. Sam, I know you said you got some information at the back, but for anyone that's listening to this at home tomorrow, where do we find out more? What's the best place to...
Yeah, so hopefully all our information will be out. The Impact Report launches next week, but you can visit our website, which is integrated to the main club website, so southamptonfc.com/Saints Foundation, and be able to see all of our work. You'll be able to see the Impact Report next week, and you'll also be able to see all the ways that you can support us, or obviously all the usual social media handles.
For Sam and also for James as well. Thank you, guys. Right, we are pretty much out of time, so can I just say a big thank you as always to our TSP Patreon community. I know a lot of them are in the room tonight. We couldn't make the show each week without your loyal support. Voice FM have also come on board this week, our radio partner here in Southampton. They've joined our Francis Benali tier, so thank you guys. Thank you for your support. If you'd like to support our podcast, you can do that with a monthly contribution. You visit patreon.com/Total Saints Podcast. And as you know, if you listen each week, each of the tiers comes with some shout outs for patrons in our Francis Benali and our Mick Shannon tier, so our little roll of honour, which we do at the end of every pod. Thank you to Dave Melton, Andy Hollis, Anthony Thompson, Gavin Ford, James Harron, Nicky Nicholson, who's here tonight and I think celebrating a milestone birthday. Is that right? Yeah, well, I think we'll have a drink downstairs and maybe a bit of cake in the Dell. So happy birthday to you for Saturday. Also Peter Montalabo, Southampton NY, Drew Dyer, James Kibbe, Red 76 Tax, Michael Blackmer, David Mansell, Nick Gardner, John Collison and Voice FM. They're in our Francis Benali tier. Also thanks to Nick Reed, Dave Ernsberg and Nick Hingston, Phil Cook, Jonathan Cooper, Colt Baker, Anthony Thompson, Matt Hall, Mike Etheridge, Phil Horstrup, Mark Littlewood, James Bobin, John Bevan, Frank Thorpe, John Peacock and Andy, who are in the Mick Shannon tier. If you don't already, it would be great if you could give us a follow on the socials. Just have a search for @TotalSaintsPod. If you'd like to wear any of the wonderful merchandise that the team are modelling expertly tonight, shop.totalsaints.co.uk. Somebody bought a Marion Pahar's hoodie, didn't they, just before we went live or something, I think. So... fair enough. A huge thank you as well to Paul Castle Associates and Steamtown Brewery for sponsoring TSP this season. My thanks as well to Steve, to Glenn, to Elfie. Thanks again to James and to Mark for joining us. We're off to the Dell for a pint. You are welcome to join us, and we'll be back at the usual time on Sunday night. Thank you very much.